Not again. Jesus, not again. Just when we got rid of the stench of the last time. Petersburg, do I look like a cleaner to you?
You're doing fine. Breathe through your mouth.
Sorry, I can't help it. It's visions in my head, so ugly. Gotta let them out so I can see. They look just like that. You're all gonna die. You know that? It's as clear as day. You can see it there. You're all gonna die. I saw it.
I saw it. They're all dead.
You're all gonna die.
I wish.
Max Payne 2, The Fall of Max Payne. Quite a mouthful title, but did you guys know that the game was initially supposed to be titled just The Fall of Max Payne, according to Scott Miller, founder of 3D Realms, the producers of the game. I also think that the title is actually a quadruple entendre. One of the reasons I think it's called The Fall of Max Payne is because it shows how Max falls. A lot. Like literally. Here. 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 A little bit here, and maybe here. Secondly, if we take a closer look at the environments, it looks like it rains a lot, and the vegetation is all dried, meaning that it's autumn, or how it's also known as, the fall. Thirdly, we can see his relationship with Mona is growing at quite a fast pace, and he seems to have fallen in love again. Last but not least, the aspect that the developers probably thought of the most when coming up with this title. We can look at this from a psychological point of view. Max's mental health has been going downhill since the first game. In other words, he has fallen in a deep pit of darkness mentally. He has not yet processed his trauma properly. Brovray even notices this and tries to help him out.
When you're ready to go to AA, come talk to me. Get your act together.
He constantly has nightmares, and the only thing that helps him avoid his past is Mona. Love is what drives him the most in this game, and it's his main reason for living after all the shit that he's been through. Max Payne 2 was released in October 2003 for PC and November and December for Xbox and PS2 respectively. The game was developed by Remedy Entertainment and published by Rockstar Games. It is the direct sequel to Max Payne and still follows the story of, well, Max Payne. It was praised highly by many, and most of you will probably agree that it was indeed a great game. Despite that though, Take-Two, the parent company of Rockstar Games, reported that the game unfortunately sold poorly, it being the cause for the company's reforecast of finances in 2004. Now, in case you didn't know, Remedy confirmed that they are developing a remake of this game as well as the first one, and they will both be released at the same time. They also announced that since the release of Alan Wake 2, the remakes have officially entered the production phase. I can't tell you how excited I am that they are working on it, and that Remedy, not Rockstar, are developing this, even though Rockstar is still publishing. I have complete faith that Remedy will work with care and passion in creating the best versions they can. Maybe even allow themselves to bring some features to these games that they only dreamed of when they were first released. As this being a sequel, I will sometimes use the first game to refer to certain improvements and which one did certain things better than the other from my point of view. With that being said, let's talk a little bit about the characters and the story. I'm happy to say that James McCaffrey has once again come to voice Max, and I'm so happy he did because his voice is just as iconic as ever. However, I'm very sad to say that James McCaffrey unfortunately passed away recently on December 17th, 2023. He has played so well in everything he took part in, and most recently in Alan Wake 2 as Alex Casey. I just couldn't help but scream like a little girl the moment I heard him voicing Detective Alex Casey, who has the appearance of Sam Lake, and felt like Max Payne has returned. Obviously he didn't, since Max Payne isn't part of the Remedy connected universe. Rockstar still owns the rights to the game, but it was still a nice callback. James McCaffrey's relationship with Remedy and the way he has played in most of their games goes to show how much Remedy appreciated him, and just as much how nice it must have been for him to play in their games.
Soon. I'll rest first. I'm so tired. Always tired now. Birthdays are like regrets. They just keep coming. Each one a new scar that slows you down and drags you closer to your grave. Happy birthday, Max Payne.
He will forever be missed. A change to one of the characters that I thought was a little unnecessary, but I assume was done for a good reason, was the voice actor for Vinny Gognitti, which I thought wasn't as good as the one from the first game, but eventually I got used to.
You're a freaking cunt! You're a freaking cunt! You're a freaking cunt!
you'll see that Max's face here is a bit different. Remedy took a different approach this time around, no longer having that 2D Sam Lake-ish portrait, and instead went for an actual face model. It's absolutely understandable why they went with this approach, especially since they had a bigger budget this time around and allowed themselves to properly animate and change his look several times during the story, which helps his character progression. Even though some mementos from the previous game were updated with the new face model, Sam Lake's face is still present in the game, but this time as one of the characters from the Address Unknown TV show that you can watch on the Endgame TV or at the New York City Funhouse. Despite the fact that Max now has a more formal attire as a detective and no longer wears his old clothes, if you take a closer look in the apartment he currently lives in, we can see the old shirt he wore on the bathroom dryer. When it comes to the soundtrack of this game, I can definitely say that there is no shortage of awesomeness either. The first one soundtrack made you feel this sense of revenge in Max's heart. Whereas in this one, the addition of the violin playing in the main theme gave me this sense of dread, hopefulness, and made me appreciate the painful love story that goes on between Max and Mona. Now, I'm absolutely sure that whenever someone hears of Max Payne 2 and mentions the music, the first thing that comes to mind is
Night, it's a late goodbye.
there is no way in hell that you played this game and didn't listen to Late Goodbye by the Poets of the Fall. It is such an iconic song and it's even referenced multiple times in the game. Just like I mentioned the close relationship between Remedy and James McCaffrey, I am happy to say that this relationship is just as close between Remedy and Poets of the Fall. So close in fact that the band actually have their own characters in the Alan Wake series and are now the old gods of Asgard, playing as the characters Thor and Odin and bringing absolutely fantastic music with Alan Wake 2.
A whole lot of paranormal crimes happening right now. It's fucking awesome. I want a t-shirt.
I mentioned earlier that Address Unknown is one of the TV shows that appear in the game, but besides that we also have 3 more: Lords and Ladies, Captain Baseball Batboy, and Dick Justice. Now, the last one is actually very important to take note because Dick Justice is actually a TV show based on Max Payne 1, and not only that, but it even makes fun of it in ways that is just silly.
The rain was coming down like all the angels in heaven had decided to take a piss at the same time. In a situation like mine, you can only think in metaphor.
I wish I could show you all of the episodes because they were just so entertaining to watch, and I highly recommend you go and watch them yourselves. The fact that Remedy continued this trend of bringing side stories in areas that you can pretty much skip if you don't give a damn goes to show the lengths that they went to in order to create such a believable world.
Lady, wait.
My lord.
There's a lot of discussion regarding which game is better, Max Payne 1 or 2. I think that both games, from a story perspective, have done an amazing job of telling the tragic story of this broken man. I did like the first one better overall, but I think that the characters here have a little bit more personality. I loved Mona. She is rigid, cautious, she doesn't take too much shit from anyone, but she also has a soft side for Max, which will ultimately be her demise.
This is love. Love hurts.
I still wish we would have gotten a spin-off game of her before she met Max and her struggles with her sister and Punchinello. Find out where and how she learned to be such a badass. Vinny, now for some reason wearing some sort of Balkan tracksuit, was very different from the one we saw in the first game, and at first I can't say that I was a fan of the change. Once we got to the mission where we had to protect Vinny, which was a very nice change of pace, even though kind of annoying, we started seeing his real personality, and his interaction with Max was very enjoyable.
Do you know how much this stuff is worth? I tell you, fucking much. Nothing nerdy about it, I'm a collector.
That mission definitely got me to like him more, and it felt like there was an actual relationship building up there.
Frankie was into this stuff, he was a fucking tough guy. No, Payne, what are you doing? What are you doing? Those are priceless collector's items. Payne, what are you doing? Oh, shit. Oh.
Vlad was introduced early in the game, and you could feel that something was off about him. A lot of the things related to the first mission mentioned him, and it was obvious that he had a bigger role to play, especially since he was brought up more and more as we progressed through the story. Winterson was introduced for the first time as Max's partner, and she felt interesting enough, but as you progressed, she also started to feel like she was hiding something. We'll find out later that she was in league with Vlad the whole
Who are you
time.
talking to? You're leaking information.
Bravura's too soft on you. I was informing the proper authorities on what they
So,
should
as you
know.
can see, the characters were actually quite interesting, secretive, and they managed to raise so many questions that kept you hooked throughout the whole adventure. The first one turned so many stones and revealed quite a good number of characters that this one evolved even further. Woden, Vlad, Mona, Bravura, Vinny. Every moment with them felt significant. My main dilemma was that they all ended up dead or close to dying in this one. It's like Max is cursed to have everyone he meets suffer. We even see a scene where he subconsciously thinks so himself in one of the nightmare levels.
People get near you, they die. You killed your
I
family.
can't say I'm all that happy about this, as I feel like many of these characters were likable and I wanted to see more of them. See how they get built up even further. Instead, they all got killed, like the developers didn't even try to keep some mystery or possibility of a sequel. At a certain point, you see Max talking to someone and you think, well, this person's dead. I'm not sure if this was Rockstar's doing, because we did eventually get a sequel developed by them, and you could clearly see how disconnected it was from the first two. I had my problems with the first game's ending from a gameplay perspective, but it had a fair conclusion. Max got his closure, and I appreciated that there were some unanswered questions that left you wanting more. Will Woden keep his promise? Did Mona and Vinny survive? Will we ever see Vladimir Lem again? We got all of our answers here, but all Max got in the end, even though he doesn't know that yet, is more pain, and all that will live on with him is his painkiller addiction. Now, as negative as all that might sound, it's not to say that Max Payne has a bad story. Not even close, it has an amazing story. You can already tell by the way the first graphic novel is presented and tricks the player into making him believe that Max and Mona will end up happily together. The reality is that it's just a matter of perspective. The moment you reach the final mission and you realize the heartbreaking truth. He keeps having good things brought into his life only for them to be taken away later. There's a lot of foreshadowing going on in the game, a lot of which is related to Vlad, like the baseball bad boy costume that we see in the second level of the game when entering Vlad's office, which we all know what will be used for. But here's a small detail that you might easily miss. We have a new weapon introduced into the game, which is the AK-47, aka Kalashnikov. What is interesting is that the only group of people using this gun is Vlad's cleaning company commandos. Apparently Vlad is very patriotic because we all know this gun is of Russian design. The first person we see using said weapon is Mike the Cowboy, and whenever you see Vinny's goons use it, it's most likely because they got it from Vlad's men. Now, this might be a little far-fetched, but I personally found it interesting that this weapon and the Dragunov sniper rifle were introduced in this game where the main villain is of Russian descent. By starting the game, we are introduced to the story with the same amazing graphic novels that we all know and love. I swear to God, I'm surprised that this wasn't something that more developers adopted into their projects, as it was so seamless, artistic, and pleasant to scroll through, not to mention that you could pause them at any time and admire the art. The game only features one game mode for the first playthrough, which is Detective. This is basically the story mode with a dynamic difficulty attached to it. By that, I mean that the game will change its difficulty according to your playstyle. If you die a lot, the game will provide the player with more painkillers and the difficulty will be a little easier. If the player doesn't die at all, the game's difficulty will be bumped up a little, but the game is still rather easy. As soon as the credits roll, the other game modes are unlocked, one of which is the Hard-Boiled game mode, referencing the Hard-Boiled movie by John Woo, the inspiration for the bullet time feature. Of course, this was also in the first game as well, but I completely missed this detail when making that video. The prologue mission here does such a good job presenting the vibe of the game. This 5-minute mission encapsulates everything that you need to know about the game, and at the same time, nothing.
Hello? Anyone there?
Max, answer me, Max!
All you do as you go through this section is get confused and ask questions.
Is this the Payne residence?
Some known characters are introduced, such as Bravura and Mona. Bravura throws the pronoun game, and you are just left wondering.
You killed her!
No, I can't.
I think it's a great method of raising curiosity, setting up expectations, and letting the player figure everything out. The whole introduction section screams Max Payne. The rain, the thunder, it all comes together to create this dark atmosphere. The fact that it's also a hospital adds to this intense and creepy vibe. There is no one around and all you can hear is the rain hitting the roof glass, the thunder rambling, a phone ringing, some hospital devices can be heard, the violin soundtrack mixing together with these ambient sounds, and Address Unknown playing on the TV. All of this showcases the dark tone of the game, and this is only one of the many instances where you will feel this.
John Mira came to mock me in the bathroom mirror.
The timeline of the missions will get some getting used to, as the first graphic novel actually shows us the ending of the game, the prologue mission shows us the intrigue portion of the story, and afterwards quickly switching to the mission that started it all. By the end of the game you will have already figured everything out, but like I said earlier, all of this is done this way so that you can start asking questions and to raise your curiosity about what the hell is going on. When it comes to the gameplay, I think that this one stands out as one of my favorite games of the early 2000s. It blows my mind just how much of a difference it is from this to the first one. Sound, graphics, and overall presentation, all much better. The first game already did an amazing job of making it feel action-packed and tense, but it has some pretty annoying issues, mainly with the AI. Just the addition of the Havoc physics engine makes everything much more believable and immersive. I feel like Max has more weight to him. Not physically, he looks more or less the same, but his actions feel more alive thanks to the world environment that reacts more naturally. The first instance where you really feel this is the scene where Max meets the first enemy, and the whole interaction was designed in such a way that it showcases these physics. You see the commando, you can dodge or just shoot in order to kill him, and then a slow motion animation cutscene occurs where the enemy falls backwards, hits some boxes, the shelves on the wall break and fall to the ground, and you can see how every single object and the enemy react to one another in real time. Bullets also feel more dangerous the way that they travel and hit their target, whether it be a simple box or a person. Every bullet you shoot has that same weight to it. If you shoot a person's limbs, they will react upon dying depending on where you shot them. They actually feel dangerous. An exaggerated detail that I noticed though is that if you pay a close attention when shooting your gun, you can clearly see the bullets traveling through the air. I assume that it was done this way because when you're using bullet time, you could technically dodge bullets as if you're Neo from The Matrix. And speaking of bullet time, I'm happy to say that it's still here. It's mostly the same, but with a couple of twists. The most important change is the sepia filter added when turning it on. On a more serious note, while the bullet time is active, Max can now instantly reload his weapons, and he moves a little faster compared to the first game. Thanks to the better animated characters and overall graphics, we now have more in-game cutscenes which help keep up the pace of the game. Not only that, but the characters interact more in the real world as well, and there are these small RPG-ish elements that make you feel like you have more control over the game and allows you to make certain choices. An instance where this decision making takes place is the second mission where you find the cleaner and you need to follow him to open the door in order to progress. The whole interaction is basically a trap. Now, whether you choose to follow him and trigger that trap or shoot him beforehand are both viable options.
Perp's disguise didn't fool me. He was leading me into a trap.
Normally, you'd think that by killing him preemptively, you'd fail the mission, but it's not the case. I felt like the game gave me control over my decisions and respected that I knew what I had to do. Another example is Mike the Cowboy, Vlad's right-hand man. You meet him for the first time in the Ragnarok nightclub, a nice nostalgia-hitting location, and he is at this point an ally. If he lives throughout the level, you will meet him again when returning to the now vodka restaurant guarding Vlad's office. However, if he dies, or you kill him yourself, you'll just meet some random goon. Mike is not necessarily more difficult to fight than the goon that I mentioned, but it's just a nice detail that persists throughout the game. Now, speaking of Mike, this game presents another very cool AI enhancement that the first game didn't really have at this level. We now have companions that will accompany us in different firefights, companions that we interact with, give feedback, and another great example of making the world and the game itself much more immersive.
Come on, we're moving.
I feel a lot better now that you're here.
The feeling's mutual, baby.
Not only that, but interacting with them will start a conversation and you can issue orders, such as to stay or follow you.
On second thought, you better stay back.
Ah, right. Why the hell would I?
The first game had a couple of NPCs we had to guide in order to help us open some doors, but nothing more. Whereas here, we have them help us, some of them will die tragically, or kill them yourself, like I said, but they won't go down without a fight.
I'm on your side! That does it, you psycho!
As for weapons, I can happily say that the game has kept most of the weapons from the previous one while adding some more, such as the Kalashnikov and Dragunov mentioned earlier. They also made a nice change to the way the weapon system works. By that I mean that in the first game we had to equip throwables in order to use them. Here we have them equipped at all times and can be thrown by simply pressing the mouse scroll button. I remember there were two moments in the game that actually blew my mind when I played it for the first time as a kid. One of those moments was when we lost control of Max at the construction site and we started playing as Mona. You don't expect it, but it happens, even though the game doesn't change much from a gameplay perspective. The only thing that changes is the way that they jump sideways. Other than that is just business as usual. What is awesome though is that the conversation stays the exact same between her and Max, but you now go through her shoes.
Mona, I know this sounds crazy, but I need you to go and call the cops. I need them here.
You're right. You are crazy. I'm a fugitive, Max. I just escaped from custody.
I wouldn't ask if it wasn't
Go to hell, Max.
Mona? Damn.
Bastard.
The other moment that impressed me quite a lot was the prologue of Part 2, A Binary Choice. This mission is set in the police station and the whole area is free to roam about. You can explore the rooms, talk to people you meet, and listen to their stories.
We found you out of it on V, covered in blood, burying the pieces of your wife and the pizza guy under a rose bush in the backyard. There's a bloody chainsaw in the bathtub, and by the looks of it, they had been shot in your bed. The murder weapons have your prints all over them, and you say you didn't do it.
Hell no! I'm a fall guy! I've been framed! It's a setup! See, that's just it. I wish it was that easy. And I know this sounds crazy, but they weren't in on it alone. It's much bigger than that. Basically, anyone who does home delivery is in on it. The mailman. And that means that the government is involved. The mailman told me all about it.
So all we have to do is to get in touch with this mailman, and we get the proof.
See, that's not gonna work. He's dead.
The mailman's dead.
There are so many funny and stupid conversations going on in this precinct that by the time you listen to a couple of them, you just want to explore further, and you'll definitely get a chuckle or two out of some of those interactions. Not only that, but it also makes you realize how well the presentation is done, that the area is accurately representative of everything we've seen so far within the graphic novels. When it comes to the enemies, there's enough variety to make sense, and they all do a good enough job to make you feel like you're not just fighting the same people over and over again. We can even see a nice detail with the ones that are wearing a bulletproof vest compared to the ones who don't. When shooting the vests, the point of impact has a spark coming out compared to when you hit them directly, displaying blood. Of course, the vest does work because it takes a much greater amount of bullets to kill these guys, so it's not just for show. As much as I appreciated these details and the variety of enemies, I can say I was very happy with some of the boss fights of the game. The more uniquely modeled characters that are known to be much tougher opponents are no different than the average enemy you encounter. We keep hearing about Kaufman.
Kaufman's waiting at the van.
Kaufman.
Kaufman wants his Kaufman's orders.
From the beginning of the game, and he is the first quote-unquote boss fight that we encounter. The big bad boy exits the elevator, throws a one-liner,
Find him. Take care of him.
camera returns to you, and everything gets tense because you know shit's about to go down. Remember that badass music we had in the first game when we were chasing Vinny?
Okay, boss, you got it. No problem.
The fight with Vinny, or Jack Lapino, it felt like something like that was coming up. Instead, we just had to throw a grenade, shoot a couple of bullets, and he's dead. It was extremely anticlimactic. It got me to appreciate the boss fights in the first game even more, even though all they had were a larger amount of HP, but at least they felt like a challenge. Compared to the times when this was released and the fact that it was released on square-ish monitors, the game was designed around this aspect ratio so that certain areas would not be displayed. One instance where this was helpful was when Max was visiting Mona and she was showering, displaying a glimpse of her breasts. Well, with the use of widescreen, we can visualize more than that, allowing us to view even the
nipular area.
This is only one of the few instances where the game appears a little broken, but it doesn't impact the experience in any way. I'm sure no one will mind this one though. I did encounter an annoying bug, however, when I was escorting Vinny out of his apartment that required me to load a previous save, but other than that, it was a completely fine experience from start to finish. With all that being said, let's talk about the ending of the game. As we progress through the story, we have come to find out that the main antagonist of the game is none other than Vladimir Lem. This may come up as no surprise as we've been given multiple hints about him, but there was always this tiny piece of doubt that it just might not be him. It was an actual likable character and you wanted to believe that it's not true.
Cleaning company commandos were his men.
We know Winterson was in love with Vlad and she tries to kill Mona for him. Max stands in her way and eventually kills Winterson in order to save Mona. With her dying breath, she shoots Max in the back and he falls
Fall of Max Payne
down the building, waking up later in the hospital. He manages to leave and proceeds to go to Alfred Woden to gather some more information, finding out that Vlad was the man Max has been looking for this whole time. We also find out later from Vlad that Alfred Woden was actually the person who got Max's family killed, him being the one who sent the documents to Michelle, Max's wife. The killing of Winterson has driven Vlad to get revenge, shooting Max in the funhouse and leaving him there to die. A pretty fucking cliche and amateur mistake by Vlad, not confirming his skill, but it does manage to leave the player with a gasp, and considering that we did play with Mona before, some may ask if Max will really die here and the story will move forward with Mona from now on. Enter Mona. His guardian angel, as always, has arrived to rescue him, again. After reaching Max's Mona, going through the nightmare level, and him waking up, we found out that he is alive and not so well, having a fucking bullet stuck in his head, but as soon as he gets a hold of himself and pops a couple of painkillers, obviously, we persuade Mona to go together to Woden's manor for the final act. Progressing through the manor and reaching Woden will reveal to us that Mona was actually hired by him to kill Max.
This is love.
But she has fallen in love and couldn't bring herself to go through with the contract.
Hope, a choice that you can put down your gun.
See, I can't do it. You're a bastard, Max.
This is love. Love hurts.
Vlad, now a traitor of his mentor, Alfred Woden, has been watching behind the shadows, probably waiting for the perfect moment to come out, and shoots Mona in the back. Woden, already a dying man, has pretty much reached his limits with all the killings that have been occurring inside the Inner Circle gangs, so he pushes himself to try and kill Vlad then and there, failing in the attempt to do so. We pursue Vlad through the manor, triggering the final boss fight, which has the player shoot some wooden bolts that will make Vlad fall together with the structure he is hiding in. Surviving the fall, Max will proceed to shoot him directly and Vlad will finally fall to his death, ultimately ending the killing spree that has been going on. From a gameplay perspective, this is a bit more challenging than the first game because there is an actual sense of danger since Vlad will throw Molotov cocktails and bombs while we shoot out the wooden bolts. Once the structure falls down, the danger is pretty much over and you just shoot Vlad until the cutscene triggers.
That was... Max, dearest of all my friends. I was supposed to be the hero.
With all the fighting done, Max crawls back to a dying Mona, and as she passes away, he starts to sense some closure, to feel reborn, to start seeing himself as what he is, what he has become on all his recent journeys, and the following graphic novel appears.
And in that act of seeing, I am reborn. I had a dream of my wife. She was dead, but it was all right.
Now, I don't know about you, but to me, this was very difficult to grasp. As much as I'd want to believe this, the fact is that this man is a killer, whose most important connections have died and he is now more alone than ever. Even if I were to take away the existence of Max Payne 3 and not know that he really didn't end up well, I'd still suspect that what he thinks at this point is just an illusion.
Makes you think about free will. Have our choices been made for us because of who we are?
But as it is right now, we do have a Max Payne 3 and we can see there that he actually didn't find any closure whatsoever and he eventually succumbs to a life of addiction.
I was a mess. Rodrigo.
So, in conclusion, I think that both games hold up extremely well. The first one, I enjoyed the story very much, but the gameplay was one of the aspects that was annoying for me. With this one, it's the complete opposite. The gameplay is fantastic, but I have my issues with the story. I still think the presentation and the way it's told is excellent and is just something that Sam Lake and Remedy does extremely well. But there are some points in the story itself that were a bit difficult for me to grasp, more specifically the erasing off the face of the earth of most characters that we've come to love and the conclusion of Max's story, which I personally found hard to believe. With that being said, when it comes to the remakes that will be released somewhere in the future, the gameplay of the first game, which was my most criticized aspect in my previous video, will pretty much be fixed while keeping that amazing story, which will essentially make it an almost perfect game. However, with the second one, it's gonna be difficult to make it a perfect game because it already has a great gameplay, the remake will only make it even better, but the story is gonna stay the same and this aspect is extremely subjective. Regardless, I am still excited for the remakes. All of this criticism, which is strictly personal, doesn't make me love this game any less and doesn't change how much this franchise means to me. This was pretty tough to think about as Remedy's storytelling is definitely one of a kind and very complex. I had to think long and hard and analyze this as well as I can to come up with a genuine opinion of my own. I would really like to know yours. What do you think about this game's story? How did it impact you and what would you like to see in the upcoming remake? I can already tell you guys that I will 100% get the Platinum Trophy for both of them, and I'll bet my ass off that one of the trophies from those games will be to watch all of the TV shows that we encounter throughout the game. Speaking of trophies, don't forget to watch my latest video titled Why Do I Like Trophy Hunting, and after this ostentatious self-promotion, I want to thank you for watching this video. I appreciate your continued support and don't forget to leave a comment about what you liked and didn't like so that I know what to work on next. With that being said, take care everyone.
Switched. I used to look like this. I thought I was the killer. I thought I was a mobster. I thought I was a cop. I thought I was a patient. I thought, who am I?